Greetings, friends of the Great Advent Movement, and welcome to the Present Truth Studies YouTube channel. I'm your host, Brother Eric. Today we're going to pick up on the continuing controversy in the church over religious liberty and the stand of the church leaders during the COVID scamdemic. This is ignited by a sermon by Elder Conrad Vine given back in August, calling to account the church leaders for their failure to support the religious liberty of Seventh-day Adventists that refused or didn't want to take the jab. Now, this has erupted throughout the internet. Now, a Adventist website, Fulcrum 7, is keeping statistics. There's over 2 million views, over 100 plus videos on YouTube alone discussing this crisis. Not only Elder Vine's calling out the issue to church leaders, but being censored by private ministries, by the Michigan Conference, by Audioverse. And so this is creating an increasing divide. And friends, it's not going to go away. What I want to address today is the position of the church leadership. Now, we've already addressed Mark Finley, who's an assistant to the president, Ted Wilson, coming out with his argument or position. So we dissected that and some many problems. I mean, he's just outright gaslighting people about controversies in the church. They want to bury it. Well, there's another video clip that we're going to play for you here in a moment, but it comes from Elder Ganoune Diop. He is the Director of Public Affairs and Religious Liberty for the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventist Church. So he's part of the executive committee. He's way at the top. So he recently addressed in a panel discussion in Nairobi, Kenya, at an Adventist church with other church leaders, issues involving the church. Now, he brings this up about the church's position on vaccines and religious liberty. So we got a 2-minute clip here. We're going to play it and then comment on the other side. But there's some serious problems with the church's leaderships doubling down and trying to bury the truth, cover this up, sweep it out of the way, and to hide it, what's really going on. So we're going to comment on the other side. But now let's play this clip and listen carefully.
For example, we have been at the General Conference accused recently for promoting vaccine. We have not promoted that. But the church made a statement at one point, the Department of Health, saying if we look at history, if a missionary goes to a country, it's mandatory to be vaccinated. Okay. And in that context, the health department said that there is nothing that will prohibit a pastor or a person, Adventist, to be vaccinated. And that has been taken out of context, and people start accusing the General Conference that we are promoting vaccine. We have not. Adventists have freedom of conscience to refuse to be vaccinated. However, that doesn't mean that the church has to stand for the person. You know, the church is not a political entity in that sense, even though we gave advice in how to deal with, health authorities in order to manage that situation. But the concept of separation of church and state is very important for Adventist consciousness.
Okay, we're back on the other side. Now, I hope you were paying attention. Right off the bat, actually, there was not a question specifically asked to him about the recent controversy in the church, critical of church leadership. Well, we all know what he's talking about. It's the sermon of Elder Conrad Vine calling into account church leaders for their failure to support the religious liberty of Seventh-day Adventist members during the COVID crisis. That's the issue. That's the hot button issue. Now, the first thing the Elder Diop claims is that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is not promoting vaccines. Friends, this is patently false. He is gaslighting you. Now, anybody that was paying attention, that's why we have to stand up and cry aloud to arouse your memories. We hope we don't have a short memory span here, but Adventist churches were active in promoting the vaccines. And we're going to show you some clip evidence to document this. Okay, right here, we got a clip that the North American Division headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland, partnered with a worldly hospital to promote the vaccines in their very building. Here's the clip. Okay. Or what about this evidence that the Maryland churches, Seventh-day Adventist Church in Maryland, were promoting vaccine clinics, saying, come to our church and we'll give you free food and take the jab or get the booster. I mean, this is unmistakable that the churches, some churches, were actively promoting the vaccines. Or look at this clip compiled from a search in the Adventist Today website talking about Loma Linda, a flagship medical institution in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, promoting vaccine clinics in their own hospital. And they even boasted they were going to try to mass vaccinate the whole Inland Empire. That's the area in San Bernardino County around Loma Linda. And after a couple months, you see this report in March of 2021, is that they're boasting that they vaccinated over 100,000 people. So friends, don't think for a second that the church wasn't actively in bed with the government mandates and the medical establishment to promote vaccines. They were. So that's point number one. Point number two is he then deflects, well, Seventh-day Adventists, we support religious liberty. Of course, that's a long-standing tradition to support the religious liberty of individuals and not to be interfered with government mandates or employers that want to disrespect your, say, day of worship, for example, having the day off, the Sabbath, to worship God. So that's been a long-standing tradition. Why is it that we turn our back on it when it comes to medical mandates? So he will argue, well, Seventh-day Adventists have a religious right to refuse the vaccines. Okay, he's pandering to the audience, but then he goes one step farther. Watch the hand trick here. He then says, but the church should not be supporting the individuals with religious exemptions. What? And his argument is very specious. He said, basically, that it's a political issue. And we believe in the separation of church and state, so therefore the church could not come in and support its members for religious exemptions. Did you get that? That's a violation of our very principles of what we stand for in the Advent message. If that's true, then how is the church going to deal with the Sunday law crisis? Because that's a church-state issue. So they're trying to scapegoat and maneuver out of this. Oh, it's political in nature, and we don't want to be involved in politics. Well, friends, the issue about mandates, especially taking the poison liquid, the jab, is much more than a political issue. It's a fundamental, inalienable right to the sovereignty of your body temple. It's a health issue. It's a medical issue. It's a moral issue. It's a scientific issue. All of those. So they're trying to maneuver out of the undue criticism that they see it coming from Elder Conrad Vine. But the spotlight's straight on them. So that's why we have to continue to vocalize this and bring it to your attention that your church leaders are not doing the Bible thing to confess their faults and acknowledge they're wrong and try to make restitution to church members that were punished and hurt. No, what are they doing? They're doubling down and digging their heels in. and everybody's seeing it. They're trying to maneuver away from the issue and move on to the next thing. Oh, well, look over here. Here's Elder Ted Wilson, president of the church, out knocking on doors, handing out tracts in San Francisco. Oh, he's a man of mission. Friends, that's just a diversion. Why isn't Elder Ted Wilson the very one who in the General Conference Session 2022 shut down any discussion when the brave attorney Jonathan Zirkle dared to stand up and ask the question about this vaccination crisis and religious liberty? They were muzzled. Elder Wilson has some explaining to do, but they're not going to. And this is the point I want to bring to your attention. Pay attention. If this comes up again, they will bow down again to government mandates. And here's the point that nobody's talking about. Because they're in bed with the government. They're incorporated. IRS 501c3. They've been incorporated since the late 50s. This is what's driving their decisions. And it's all about protecting the money pot. Okay, if they don't follow down the government mandates, then they risk losing tax-exempt status and liability for up to 10 years back tithe income. You know how much money that is? Billions. They could lose all of their institutions. So their fear over protecting their money pot is driving their decisions. And so we'll be posting a video soon about the dangers of incorporating with the state. They forfeited God's protection. We'll also be doing a video very shortly giving counsel. What can you do when the next crisis comes? Whether it's a health crisis, pandemic, climate crisis, who knows what, something's going to come down. And the bottom line is this: wake up and accept reality. You cannot depend on church leaders to support you. We're on our own. Does that mean we're forsaken? No. This earthly institutions, including our church leaders, you cannot depend on them. They'll forsake you. But friends, the God of heaven will not forsake you if you stand strong for the truth, just like Daniel and his friends. So though you may seem alone, God will be with you. So you have to prepare for what's coming. If more mandates come, then there's information that you can stand up in front of the highest tribunals of this world and defend the tenets of your faith. You can give moral reasons, ethical reasons, medical reasons, scientific reasons. No, I will not submit to this tyranny to take an unknown chemical cocktail and inject it into this body temple and violate my rights of conscience. So we're going to work on helping get materials for that. And also, don't fear to lose your job over a mandate. There are better things for you. And I'm going to share some testimonies of people that have stood up and said, no, we won't submit to these mandates. Even though they might have lost their job or source of income, God opened the door for something better for them. So we're going to be sharing some of those testimonies in a video coming up here in a couple days to help give you some encouragement and some counsel, how that God will be by your side and defend you if you stand up for the truth and stand strong and fear no man. And cease to rely on our church leaders who have gone the way of the world. God will render an account unto them. But let us do our part to stand strong for the truth, come what may. We appreciate your time, and may God richly bless you as you search for truth as for hidden treasure, and to cease from all men whose breath is in their nostrils. Until we meet again, Godspeed.